Today, we're talking about a time that built a specific kind of resilience, one that's, well, practically extinct today. The unique psychology forged by a 1970s childhood. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a crazy exaggeration, right? But just think about it for a second. It sets the stage perfectly for how radically different childhood was back then compared to now, and more importantly, how that difference shaped an entire generation. So, what did this arrestable childhood actually look like? Well, it was a world where a mom could send her 7-year-old kid outside after breakfast with just one simple rule: be home before dark. Can you even imagine that today? I mean, if you just disappeared for 5 hours, nobody panicked. Nobody called the police. To our modern world, that looks like straight-up neglect. But here's the twist. Psychologists are now discovering this wasn't a flaw at all. It was actually the foundation for a type of resilience that's basically gone extinct. Okay, so next up, let's talk about something we all actively avoid today, right? Boredom. Back in the 70s, though, it wasn't some disease that needed an immediate cure with a screen. Nope, it was a critical tool for development. It was a signal. Oh yeah, if you grew up in this era, you learned very, very quickly to respect those two dangerous words: I'm bored. Because this classic parental phrase wasn't just a dismissal, it was a command. Build your own world. Fast, because you knew the alternative was probably cleaning the garage. And this wasn't just about killing time. We're talking about a recognized psychological process here. Because your time was so completely unstructured, you were literally forced to invent games, build forts, and negotiate all those neighborhood rules with your friends. And you did it all without a single adult stepping in to referee. And this right here, this is what's so brilliant. Being left alone like that literally forced your brain to develop the skills to manage chaos. Neuroscientists have a name for it: executive function. It's the ability to plan, to adapt, to think critically. Your brain basically learned from a very early age how to generate amazing ideas out of nothing. Okay, but it wasn't just about boredom. The physical freedom of the 70s taught another vital lesson, and this one's all about danger. It's a lesson that modern childhood is largely engineered right out of existence. I mean, think about it. You climbed trees that were way too high. You jumped off homemade ramps that were definitely not structurally sound. And yeah, sometimes you got hurt. But here's the thing. Research actually shows that experiencing these minor physical risks develops a much better threat assessment and a lower baseline anxiety when you're an adult. You learn the difference between what was a genuine emergency and what was just temporary pain. And then there was the waiting. Oh, the waiting. Your entire childhood was a masterclass in delayed gratification. Seriously, this constant waiting wasn't a bug, it was a feature. It built up your impulse control and resilience, teaching you that, you know what, sometimes the anticipation makes the reward even sweeter. But, and this is a huge but, if we only talk about the tree houses and the freedom, we're missing a massive piece of the psychological puzzle. Because all that incredible strength, it came with a hidden psychological cost. So let's dive into that emotional reality that existed right alongside all the freedom. Because this wasn't just some golden age of play, it was also a time of some pretty intense social and family stress. You see, a lot of 70s kids came home to empty houses. They'd find the key under the flower pot, let themselves in, and feed themselves. The adults in their lives were often navigating their own big crises, which left a lot of children to manage their entire emotional worlds completely on their own. And this has a name. Psychologists call it parentification. Because the adults were so often overwhelmed, a lot of kids learned a really difficult lesson. Your needs make other people tired. And what do you do when you learn that? Well, you learn to stop asking for help. And this 4-step cycle, it hardwired a pattern deep, deep into the nervous system. Survive on your own, because asking for help just isn't a reliable option. Sure, you learned emotional self-regulation, which is definitely a strength, but wow, it came at a price. And that explains why so many people from this generation are the most reliable people you'll ever meet. They are the first ones to show up for others, but they're often the very last to admit that they need support themselves. So look, if you grew up in this era and you feel like you don't quite fit in with today's loud, fast, hyper-connected world, this next idea might really resonate with you. It's a way of reframing this whole experience. You're not outdated, you're just calibrated for a world that doesn't really exist anymore. You're what some sociologists call the bridge generation. You're not obsolete. You are the absolutely crucial link between two completely different ways of being. And this is where we can flip the script and reframe those perceived weaknesses into some pretty profound strengths. You know, when modern society sees someone who is comfortable with silence, they might interpret that as disconnection, but it's not. It's not isolation, it's depth. Your unique calibration, it's not a flaw. It's a form of stability that our modern world has largely lost. That independence isn't coldness, it's competence. You value action and sincerity in a world that, let's be honest, often rewards performance. So we'll end with this thought. The 1970s gave you a childhood that forced you to grow a backbone. Yeah, it tested you, it bruised you, but it also gave you the one thing that's so rare today, the freedom to figure out who you were when no one else was watching. And you know, understanding that past, it really helps us think about what we truly value for the future. So, if this video resonated with you, consider liking it. It helps the algorithm to reach out to more people. Also, if you want more psychology-based insights explained in simple, practical language, hit subscribe. And remember, understanding yourself is the first step to changing your life. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!